Welcome back to another video on how to learn basic techniques that form part of the Wing Chun Foundation. In this short video, what I'd like to do is take you through the basics on how to throw double punches effectively along the center line with an aim to develop short distance power. Stay tuned. Okay, so the double punch is a two-handed technique or two centerline punches thrown very close together along the center line. The technique is practiced in the basic stance, and it's a training exercise that will help a beginner learn how to develop the basic concepts and theories of short distance power. Now with this technique, there's no application to throwing the techniques to the center line, because it's quite stupid to throw two center line punches, because it means you've got both arms going forward. So it's important that a beginner understand that this is specifically a training exercise to develop speed, strength, power, the ability to open and close the fist at close range so that you can hit with some kind of power. So there's two exercises that I'm going to go through in this session. One of them is going to be dedicated towards developing the basic technique. There's no point developing speed or power if you haven't got good technique. So it's important that a beginner understand you must have correct technique before you develop speed, before you develop strength, and before you develop power. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is take you through the first exercise, and then we're going to move on to how we can develop speed and power. Okay, so the first exercise is all about developing correct form and technique. So what I'd like you to do is open your basic stance and place a left centerline guard forward. Now, the double punch is pretty much thrown from the center of the body. So the rear guard, I'm going to stand slightly off so we're at a 45-degree angle so that you can see the technique a little bit better. So you place your hands forward in what is known as a centerline guard. Now your rear guard initiates the movement. So what I'd like you to do is to just start throwing a centerline punch forward with the rear guard. That will help you initiate the movement. So you're here, so you throw the rear guard forward, and you've got a loose fist, and you just slowly throw that punch along the center line. Now, as you do that, you are to simultaneously withdraw the front hand back and underneath as the rear guard is accelerating forward. So it's going to look like this. Okay, so that's your first kind of 2 points, because there's a lot of coordination that comes with developing this movement, because you're using two hands together, and the brain is really pretty much good at just moving one hand and then the other hand. It's actually quite difficult to do both. It pretty much goes back and forth between the left and the right, and you have to develop that and in order to get quicker at it. So you're here, the rear guard throws forward, and then the front hand, I use the term it's playing catch up. Yeah, it's withdrawing, and then that throws forward as well so that you can land just slightly after the rear punch. So if I go through that, the actual technique is my rear guard goes forward, my front hand comes back, and then starts to accelerate forward so that I can hit with a double punch. Now when you throw the technique, the finished position on the movement, because it's important to know where you start and you need to know where you finish as well. So you're in this position, you throw the punch forward, and you've got your front hand on top of the rear guard like so. That's pretty much your finished position. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to do 3 sets of 10 on each guard, the left lead and the right lead, just to become familiar with the movement. And then throughout your 3 months, 6 months, or a year's worth of training, I want you to build up to sets of 100 so that you're possibly doing 250, 300 or 500 double punches in both a left and a right lead to develop power. Now the reason I put the high numbers on, as you know, Wing Chun is a close quarter street fighting system, and one of the weaknesses in fighting at close range is the fact that it's very difficult to develop power at close range. So the only way to overcome that is to start to throw lots of punches from the elbow to develop this relaxation, contraction and relaxation, so that you can actually develop a punch and hit someone with some kind of power. Now, beginners, you're actually encouraged to do lots of air punching, because you need to understand about the structure of a fist, you need to know how to form it, what tool you're using, and you need to condition your forearms to relax and contract quite suddenly to develop that imploding power. Now, when you've actually got that skill, so if you think of martial arts and kung fu, hard work, effort or skill, you're developing a skill. When you've got that skill, it's only then that you will go onto a wall bag and you will start to hit the bag specifically to develop one skill as an example, which is to open and close your hand at great speed to develop this inch power. I don't recommend beginners do that straight away. I recommend beginners spend 6 months to a year. Lots of air training is needed, because you have to have correct technique. You have to have conditioned the muscles. So practice that first exercise. Form your basic stance. Pull your navel back to your spine. Tilt your hips. Grip your backside. Make sure you've got a strong, stable stance, so that when you throw your hands forward, you've got some good technique. You've got a bit of speed. Most importantly, when your arms are on full extension, you're actually squeezing the air out the fist and developing what we call inch power at this sort of range, which is what we fight at. Try those exercises, and we're going to move on to exercise 2. Okay, so now for the exciting part. You've got good technique, and like I said before, I encourage you to do lots of repetitions. Start with 10s, then go into the hundreds, and if you're keen, go into the thousands. It's entirely up to you. You need to find a number what's right for you. But the reality is, the more you punch, the better you're going to get at actually developing power at short range. That way, when somebody asks you to throw a punch or to hit them, you can actually do what Wing Chun says on the tin. You're not talking techniques, theory or science or anything like that. You can actually do it. And pretty much in our organisation and the way that it was taught to me, you are judged on what you can do and not what you know. There is a big difference, and pretty much everything that I'm teaching you, I can do and have trained for a hell of a long time to that enables me to teach this material. So this exercise, sorry to get sidetracked, so this exercise is all about developing the speed and the power. Now, speed and power, they're concepts, so is strength, because they're measured as such. So the way that we develop speed and power is to punch from where the hand lies. Now that's a theory or a principle in Wing Chun. Everybody in the world that practice Wing Chun will know that. So when you're fighting and sparring and when you're training, you must learn to accelerate from one position to another at great speed, and hopefully you'll take in the quickest route or the shortest distance to a target as well. So the double punch enables you to develop that basic theory. So what I want you to do, I want you to place your hands forward in a left guard, and you're to practice it on the right as well. Now your hand is in front of the body like so. And all I want you to do is to loosely form a fist, and then I just want you to throw the rear guard forward as fast as you can and simultaneously retract the front hand and then start playing catch up so that you can hit. So you're throwing, you're hitting, and then relaxing. That's the technique. When you have that down, start throwing punches from where they lie forward, and you'll start to hear your muscles and your joints contract. And that's feedback that you're actually hitting with short distance power. So the theory behind speed and strength is quite simple. you are to punch from where the hand lies, and you are not supposed to withdraw in order to go forward. So this is incorrect in terms of theory. Your technique might be correct, but this is incorrect. From here, 1, 2, 3. Because I'm bringing the hands back to punch forward. That's not correct in theory. What you're supposed to do, and I'm going to give you a little tip as well that you can practice with a training partner as well. Have your hands in a good strong centerline guard. Your rear guard is in line with your elbow. From that position, just throw the hands forward to develop that power. So a couple of tips: when you've hit, don't pull the hands back and reset them back to a guard. That would be incorrect. That's a sign that you're holding tension. What I want you to do is throw the hands and let them bounce back. From here, 1, let them bounce back. So practice that, and I'm just going to give you a couple of more tips on how we can develop this technique and the concepts of speed and power. Okay, so a tip on how you can develop the ability to punch from where the hand lies, and it's something that you can practice with a partner. You can use your hands, you can use a small stick. I like to have a stick sometimes when I'm training, because if people are not doing what I say, I do like to hit them occasionally. I'm only joking. But a stick, a Carly stick, a screamer stick, or any kind of object that allows you to position the stick behind the rear guard so that you punch forward and not actually withdraw or retract the hand in order to go forward. So that's one tip on how you can develop the ability to punch from where the hand lies. The other thing is just train with a training partner and demonstrate sets together with each other, because when you're training on your own, unless you're videoing yourself, it's very difficult to self-train and correct yourself, because you're in the moment and you're training. You've not got that second or third position to work from. So training with a partner is something that I highly recommend. I recommend training in groups of 3, especially when 2 people are training and the other person is watching both sides and obviously giving some encouragement to correct their techniques and feedback so that they can change what they're doing and achieve the perfect positions as such. So what you can do then is, when your partner is exercising, when they throw the punch, make sure that they are opening and closing and squeezing the air out the fist at the right time. So when you throw a punch and you hit someone, you actually want to make sure that you've got a very hard striking weapon or tool. And the wall bag is the way to achieve that. Although the wall bag does develop strength, it does inhibit your speed. Yeah, it slows you down because you're hitting people. So when you see people throwing lots of techniques, well, you're going to be fast because you're throwing those techniques in the air. But when you actually hit something, it slows you down. And then obviously, I recommend throwing lots of combinations on the wall bag just to build up that ability to relax and contract your muscles at great speed, yet still hit someone. So all your Wing Chun techniques, you should be hitting into an object of some kind, because that's the true measure of your speed and your power. So train with a partner and have your partner observe where your rear guard is. Are you closing the hands and are you squeezing the air at the fist at the right time? And these are just some things that you can do to develop short distance power. The actual principles behind the technique are very simple. Now, I'm someone that actually favors the 45-degree angle fist when I chain punch and when I throw centerline punches and turning punches. I started with the vertical fist because I believe you have to start somewhere. The best place is at the beginning, but you have to start with a real good theory and correct structure, because when you understand that, you can actually break the rules with it. So the theory and the principles behind the technique: you're standing from a guard position, you're throwing the punches, and your hands will be on top of each other. The fists will be on top of each other and they will be in a vertical fist position. Basic concepts are very simple. You want to make sure that your elbows are pointing down to the ground. You want to make sure that they're tucked in because you want a body punch. Although you're striking from the hand, your elbows are close to your body, which means you're going to get support and power from your body and hopefully from your legs as well if they're positioned. So you need to make sure that you're hitting with a vertical fist, your elbows are down like so, and the punch comes from the chest, it comes from the heart, it comes from the center line. They're some of the basics that's going to help you develop this double punch. Like I said, the repetitions you choose is up to you, but there's just one point I just want you to take on board and remember. If you are training for self-defense, because a lot of people train for confidence and a lot of people train for fitness as well. If you're training for self-defense, then you really do have to have quite an aggressive mindset. You have to be physically aggressive and you have to be mentally determined when you do these techniques. And the only way to do that is to train high repetition numbers so that when you do hit someone, you get the result that you want, which is to stop them from coming forward and striking you. So that's a little tip in terms of self-defense. Hit people hard, otherwise you're going to get hit back, possibly quite harder as well. That's not a place I want to be in. I want to make sure that if I'm learning Wing Chun Kung Fu for self-defense, which is one of the reasons why I'm still practicing it, although I'm a lot older now, my reasons have changed. If you're thinking about self-defense, you kind of do have to do lots of repetitions and you do have to hit with a lot of power to stop someone and concuss someone so that you're safe in a self-defense scenario. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Practice those tips. The next session is going to be on the back fist strike, which to me is one of the fastest strikes in the Wing Chun system. Thank you.